Hello, my name's Jay Betton from UPM Raffle. I support designers, brand owners, wineries, bottlers, packers across the food and drink industry in the UK and Ireland as a packaging solutions manager. I'm very pleased to say we have today with us Chris Bax, co-founder of Bax Botanics. Welcome, Chris, and thanks for joining us today.
Oh, I'm really looking forward to it. Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you. So I wondered if we could just start at the very beginning, by you telling us a little bit about yourself and how all this started.
Well, so we, Bax Botanics, produce two varieties of an alcohol-free spirit, a distilled drink, but with no alcohol in it at all. And it was myself and my wife, Rose, who launched the company and created the brand. And it was based on really almost 20 years of working with plant flavors. So we have another company called Taste the Wild, where we teach people about foraging. My background is as a chef. Rose's background was very much in plants. And so when we kind of came together, the natural thing was to go out and look at edible plants. So we've been doing that and really using products to inspire people. So our recipes were inspiring people to go out and use some of these plant-based ingredients that we were really excited about. And then over the years, people suggested that we might take some of these recipes to market. We always were rather reticent based on, and we're basically tree huggers. So we were always worried about the sustainability of using forage products and then, having this obviously incredibly successful brand and us, making too big a demands on the natural environment. So we never went down that route. And then a few things, almost one of those perfect storms came together 3 years ago when we'd been playing with distilling alcohol-free drinks. We also just absolutely saw the need. We live in the middle of nowhere, so one of us always has to drive. We love really complex drinks and food and all that. And you go out and the choice of beer is amazing. The choice of, wine is amazing. There's 30 different gins, but as a driver or someone who chooses not to drink alcohol, you don't have the choice. So we had that going on. We were playing about with alcohol-free distillation, and we served some to some people, and they said, wow, this is amazing. Why can't we buy it? And those original ones were all based around our heritage of wild ingredients, but we thought if we're going to do this and take it to market, let's look for a different solution. So we teamed up with an amazing herb supplier who can give us organic, free trade herbs that we know have been grown and produced in a really sustainable way. And that allowed us to kind of get our heads around taking a brand to market. And so Bax Botanics was born.
Wow, what a story. Can you give us an insight into what's the process of creating these non-alcoholic spirits then?
It's interesting because we're not and have never been, well, in the past, I suppose we are distillers now, but we had never been distillers. And so I think we came at it from the point of view of almost like, I suppose, looking at a chef and looking at a distiller, because we have worked in our previous guys, although we taught people, we also used to work as consultants, whether that was to chefs, but also gin distillers looking for kind of interesting botanicals that they could put into their gins. So we did have a little bit of an idea about distilling. But the other thing that we'd looked at is distilling scents as well, almost a perfumier type background. So we combined all those things. So all we were trying to do, we weren't thinking, oh, this is how you make gin. To make alcohol-free gin, you just take out the alcohol. We kind of thought, how do we produce a really amazing tasting liquid? And experimented. We played, and that's very much how we've evolved recipes in the past. The recipes we've done preserving all sorts of different other ingredients and flavor. So we played, and we have literally combined, I would say, the skills of a chef, the skills of a distiller, and the skills of a perfumier in various combinations to produce our drink. We don't de-alcoholize it. There's no alcohol in the process from start to finish.
Mhm.
It's about choosing the right botanicals that work with a alcohol-free distillation, because there's certain things that you can get flavour out of with steam distillation and water, and things you can't. So you have to choose your plants correctly and understand how those things work. And then different ways. So we are quite secretive about our process, I have to say, the exact process, because there are people who've said, how the hell do you do that? Distillers who've said, how the hell do you do that? It is distilled in a very traditional way. We don't use a flavour house. We don't put drops of flavour in there. You know, it's not based around that type of production. It's based around a really honest. We have a big still called Ebenezer. It's a 240 litre still. And with different techniques, sometimes distilling one herb on its own, sometimes they need to be distilled together, sometimes they need to be macerated, sometimes they don't need to be macerated. But a combination of those things creates Bax Botanics.
And so do you use your family and friends then as the test panel, as pilots, the judging panel?
So we were quite lucky when we started. We were obviously running these courses which are based around flavour and stuff. So we had kind of had a captured audience. So at the beginning, we literally would create flavours and then give them to the general public. We had them there, and also, you know, we had really interesting contacts through teaching foraging, like the Gourmet Food and Wine Club of Britain. We'd done work with them, so they agreed to have a tasting evening and did a tasting panel for us. And so we kind of did quite extensive research with what people liked beforehand. But yeah, definitely. I mean, friends and family are now very used to being
guinea pigs.
Guinea pigs for things. Yeah, definitely.
So how do you see the trend of non-alcoholic drinks progressing now? Do you see it growing? Do you see it diversifying into other areas?
I think it's definitely growing. Every kind of bit of research is pointing in that direction. I think it's very interesting that people were talking and still are talking about low and no. Ours is completely no, which does open up certain other markets. And also there's been a lot of talk recently. I know there's been Forbes have just done an article about how people are liking the no alcohol category because there's no ambiguity about how much alcohol in it. And so sometimes when you've got a low alcohol product, it's like, well, how low alcohol is that? Is it, you know, can I have 2? Can I have 3? You know, what level as that is. Also culturally and looking at a world market, having 0 alcohol in there opens up a larger part of the world to you. So we've just launched in, or just about to launch in, the UAE, and their kind of criteria for no alcohol is much lower than the UK. So you can say, you know, alcohol free at 0.5%. UAE is 0.01.
Yeah.
So we fit into that category, and also even going into America, we've just launched in America with a distributor in America, and that made the whole FDA process a lot easier because we didn't have any strange ingredients in there. We had absolute 0 alcohol. So I think that side is going to grow, but I think consumers are now absolutely getting how no and low drinks fit into their lives, and that's going to keep this growth going, I think.
Yeah.
I think it started with a kind of very much a sort of health and wellness movement, and certainly that sort of sober, curious movement. But I think it's got so much more into mainstream now, and people that I meet are choosing. They're not coming completely away from alcohol, but they are at certain times of the week, say. So Monday to Friday they don't drink, but they want a sophisticated drink that they can have Monday to Friday. So the market is definitely increasing, and figures are showing that they reckon a 30 30 to 35% growth over the next 3 years, which is phenomenal, you know.
Mm-hmm. So it's not just the younger consumers; it's the full broad spectrum of people.
I think the younger group are definitely driven towards alcohol-free. I think that's a health and fitness thing. It's also a control thing. I think in a world where we appear to have less and less control, we have ultimate control about what we put into our body and how that makes us feel or what it makes us do. And so I think people are very conscious about that. I think social media has got something to do with it. You know, there was a time in my lifetime when you could go out on a Friday night and everything was forgotten by Monday. But these days, obviously, people's images and images of them out enjoying themselves, in inverted commas, are there forever. So I think that's driving it. But I would say currently our core customer is female, mid-20s to 40. But we're seeing an increasing take up right the way across ages and right the way across, male and female. Right. So yeah, it's definitely growing,
Yeah, and may I use the dreaded C word and see what impact has COVID had in terms of your business plan or growth?
So definitely it was a hiccup, a fairly large hiccup in the actual growth of the business, but it was interesting. We had to completely refocus. When we started, based on advice, we were looking at kind of really focusing towards the hospitality trade, and people were saying to us, "Oh, if you can get people drinking it in bars, then when they see it in retail, they'll buy it in retail. So you always have to do the bar stuff first." And of course, March last year, that went like that.
Yeah.
And so we had to definitely refocus. The first couple of months of lockdown were really difficult. I think everybody turned to drink and nobody was interested in alcohol-free. But then I think people started thinking about what they were putting into their bodies again. And certainly towards, the summertime, things picked up retail and direct to customer retail from our website, but also online retail with people like Masters of Malt started doing really well. And so that really, it drove that part of the business, and it increased those direct sales and sales on the internet very much. Now I see hospitality coming back, but our key thing at the moment is exports. Britain has been incredibly very much at the forefront of alcohol-free. Certainly in our category, in the spirit category, there's some great products, and obviously the kind of market leader and market founder in Seedlip was British based, and we're just seeing a huge demand from abroad for really good quality British products, and we do see really good growth at the moment.
Good, that's fantastic to hear. May I ask sort of tip it slightly away from the business side, and I mean, you can answer this from a business and a personal perspective, but certainly for us at UPM Raflatac, sustainability is part of our DNA, and it's a critical part of everything we do when it comes to product design. But I just wondered what kind of considerations you make in your personal and your business life in terms of sustainability.
Well, in business, we've set. Well, as I say, we're basically tree huggers anyway. We own a woodland, so we own an 18-acre woodland which we've managed for the last 17 years, and so it's very important to us, and we would have never have pursued Bax Botanics unless we thought we could have done it in a sustainable way. And we have several pillars of our business that whenever we make any decision, we always go back to those pillars, and sustainability is very much one of those 4 pillars. And so we can't always make the choice we want to make at this stage, just because of the size we are, and we're finding that holds us back in certain decisions we want to make. But sustainability is considered in every single decision that we make. So when we started the business, we were like, well, what is the best route as far as a bottle is concerned, and we looked at all sorts of different possibilities with the bottle. But because of the type of product we had to have a bottle that felt like quality. So we thought, well, let's get a really good quality bottle with a reusable stopper. And actually, the best thing that people can do with our bottle is repurpose it. You know, and it's a great bottle. It's got a nice heavy feel to it. You put a pouring top in it, it works great with olive oil or vinegar or whatever. So we looked at that. We obviously looked at your products when it came to label, and we used the Bagasse stock from Raflatac in our labels. We work with a label printer who is very, very considerate. I mean, printing as a whole is not a particularly eco-friendly business, but they have great eco credentials, and the inks that they use and the way that they dispose of any product is really, really considered. So we looked at that. The shrink seals on the top of our bottles, the security seals on there, we use PLA rather than plastic. So hopefully PLA will get more, you know, better and better at being recycled and composted and everything. So and in the distillery as well, you know, we looked very much at a recycling system as far as our cooling water is done, and it was a very simple system that I designed initially. And now, as we scale up, we are doing exactly the same thing. So we're minimizing the amount of water we use, minimizing the amount of energy that we use, and we'll go on doing that. Our outer packaging, you know, it's all cardboard. We had a single bottle box designed that will protect our bottle through the postal system, which is literally 100% cardboard, you know, 100% recyclable cardboard, rather than you know, the inflatable things and bubble wrap and stuff. They do an amazing job, but they're you know, they're not great as far as sustainability goes. So we do look at it on every aspect. And at home, you know, we're the same. We're composters. We're, you know, looking at what we use, chemicals we use, cleaning chemicals we use. Again, in the business, again, we use products from Delphis, who have got, you know, amazing credentials as far as sustainability and their impact, environmental impact. So we use those at home as well. So it's a, I don't know, it's a core part of our lives, really. It's just really natural to us. We've always done it. It doesn't feel no, it doesn't feel like it's a chore, you know. It's just something that we've always done. And I've always said, I think sometimes people get really bogged down with, when people start talking about sustainability or being eco-friendly, there seems to be so many things to weigh up that I think the people just need to know that they can make small steps. And if everybody made small steps, it would actually have a huge impact. And I think, you know, that's where we need to go. But yeah, as I say, it's a core part of our lives, so it just fits in very naturally.
Just probably one final question from my side. What does the future hold for Bax Botanics, and would you ever, this is my personal question, would you ever consider adding an alcoholic version to the range?
I don't think we would. I think it would be possible as far as flavours go. Rose and I both drink alcohol. We're not anti-alcohol. We're not, you know, evangelists telling people not to drink. Although our still Ebenezer is actually named after my great grandfather, who was an evangelist Baptist who decried the use of any alcohol at all. So I thought it was quite nice to name the still after him as an alcohol-free still. But no, we still do drink. But I think Bax Botanics has kind of chiseled itself a little niche in this alcohol-free market, and I think because we're literally zero alcohol, I think to be involved with alcohol would probably diminish the brand status as that. As far as where we're going next, we actually developed more than the 2 flavors that we've got out at the moment, so there will be more flavors out there. And yeah, one of the other pillars of our business is innovation. So we're looking at sort of pushing forward with that. But last year, kind of, the idea of developing a new product under COVID was a bit scary, but now I think, as I say, with the success of export and the growth in the sector, I absolutely think there's room for more Bax Botanics products out there.
Fantastic. And so, Chris, I'll just draw a line under the chat.
Of course.
There. Thank you ever so much for your time today. And I hope you all agree at home that this was a very enlightening discussion. And on behalf of Raflatac, UPM Raflatac, I'd very much like to wish you and Bax all the very best and continued success. And if there's any questions that arise, that because this is a recorded session, you're more than welcome to visit us at the UPM Raflatac stand, and we can resolve the questions together with Chris. So thanks for your time again, Chris. Much appreciated.
Absolute pleasure. Really enjoyed it. Thank you.